I edited my PNG model a little bit and now it looks so much better, I swear to God. Okay, let's get this done. Good morning, fellas. I hope you're doing very well today. My name is Janek Z Arts and welcome to my first ever video. That's right. I started this YouTube thing like a couple days ago and oh my goodness, my shot has been blowing up a lot. Honestly, I thank you guys so much for that. Today is my first ever tutorial and video also, and we're going to learn about perspective today. So this is going to be split up into a few different parts, and we're just gonna make some drawings with using different types of perspective and stuff. So we are going to talk about what even is perspective in the first place and how do you use it. 1-point perspective, which is like the easiest thing to do with drawing and stuff. 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective, 4-point, and 5-point, and even 6-point perspective. I'm gonna try to explain that. There's also like 7-point perspective and stuff, but I'm not going to get into that because it's very complicated and I can't really comprehend that. So maybe we won't do that. But maybe if you guys want me to, I could try to explain it in the future. Okay, let's get into the first parts. Okay, so I'm going to use a program called Open Canvas 7, which you can get on Steam for I think $40 or something like that. But feel free to use any kind of software or maybe even paper if you want to. So yeah, just let's start. First of all, what even is a perspective and how do you use it? So if you have anything like a picture or a drawing, let's say, let's take this. And you have something like that your perspective is just basically your point of view. So, for example, when you have this line, for example, right, like that, so then your perspective is going to be at this line because your eye level is right there. So this is what perspective is, and this is what you use to get the reference and get your drawings to look a lot better. And perspective can also change your ways to draw a lot of things. So for example, if you draw a cube like this, and then I would ask you to maybe draw a 3-dimensional cube. So a lot of people would probably do something like that, or maybe even something like this. But this is good. I'm not saying this is bad, but there is so much different ways that you can maybe draw it differently and so much better. And one way to do this is with perspective. So when you, for example, have a cube, look at this. And would you look at that? This looks so much better than the other one. And I'm not saying that this you should never do because everyone has their own art style and different ways of drawing. But this right here is the best way to draw. So we already know what perspective is and how can you use it, but let's get to the main parts of it and how it works. Okay, so we have a little bit of a simple display right here, and I'm gonna try to maybe explain to you what are those different lines and shapes you see right here. Let me change my color so I can see a little bit better. Okay, so this thing right here, this line that I made in red, this is your horizon line. Now, your horizon line is basically the line which separates the air from the ground. But also, you can use it to separate maybe the air from the sea level, which is basically where the ground level is. This is the ground level right here, and this is the sky right here. And you should make it so that your horizon line is exactly at your eye level. So if you have a drawing or a reference or anything like that, your eye level is going to be exactly where this horizon line is. So make sure you get this done. Next up, we have these lines right here. These are called orthogonal lines. Are they orthogonal or? Okay, I'm used to call it just the reference lines because this is better. I'm not really sure how they're called professionally, but those lines go up to your vanishing point that we're going to talk in a second, and those lines basically align with your horizon. So if you have shapes or anything like that, and you're going to draw them in perspective, then all of this is going to match with your horizon line and going up to it. Okay, so this is basically if you try to make something look symmetrical and good, and then your reference lines are going to go here. And next up is our vanishing point that I mentioned earlier. Our vanishing point is basically the point where your reference lines go to. So if you, for example, have like these shapes right here, then your reference lines are going to go exactly to that vanishing point. Now, using that vanishing point, we can also make different types of perspective. For example, this one, because there's only one vanishing point, this is a 1 point perspective. But there is also a 2 point perspective when vanishing points are mainly attached right here or somewhere right there. So this is basically used to maybe drawing buildings in different like shapes and stuff. There is also a 3 point perspective, which is used to maybe sometimes draw cities where you can see a city from top view when you have like for example a drone shot or something like that. Then we have a 4 point perspective when you have 4 vanishing points and they all align like for example in a globe. And using this technique you can draw cities in a very interesting way where, for example, buildings like align something like this, right? And there's also a 5 point perspective when this is also called a fisheye perspective, when you have 5 vanishing points and you basically draw them as if you're drawing from a fisheye, right? So those are basically all the types we're going to cover in this video. And at the end, I'm going to try and maybe select one of them and do a drawing that you can guys maybe use, for example, to like improve your art skills and stuff. So let's get into the main bit. Okay, first let's talk about the 1 point perspective. No, starting anywhere, if you're drawing 1 point, 2 point, anything like that, you always need to start with a horizon line. And you might make sure that your horizon line, let's draw this somewhere right there, is aligned with your eye level. So this is what you would look at if you're the person standing in the picture taking a photo, for example, or something like that. Since it's at a 1 point perspective, we're going to use a 1 vanishing point. Let's just put it right there. And what are we gonna do? We're going to do some shapes and cubes like that. So, 1 point perspective is pretty easy if you're a beginner and you're just getting into art, because you don't have to worry about, for example, anything going wrongly or stuff like that, because you only have a couple of reference lines. If you're trying to do, for example, a 4 point perspective or even 5 point, it's very hard if you don't if you never have been into arts and stuff. So if you're a beginner, I will recommend using only this or maybe 2 point perspective, which we're going to cover later in this video. Okay, so we have a little bit rectangle like shape right here, and we're going to connect it with our reference lines like that. So look at this. Our reference lines go exactly to the vanishing point, to our eye level. We can also like a bit disconnect a bit right here, so that our rectangle looks like a normal rectangle that we would just see, for example, in a picture or something like that. And then we just can maybe try to do another one right there. My lines are a bit bad, but try to ignore that. And then we connect it the same way, like this. For example, in comparison to humans, because I despise drawing humans, even though I often do them like on my art classes. So yeah, just put a little door right there, like this. And since we drew like this this cube a bit smaller than would be good for a building, we're not going to put a door right here or anything like that. We're just gonna make this some windows and a roof and stuff like that. We can also a bit in the background, we can just terraform a bit and do one more building, so that our view looks like a bit more interesting. And you can already see like a lot of things that are coming up in this picture and the drawing also. So let's just skip the next part where we have everything drawn. Okay, so we have like this. There's a setup right here, and now we're going to draw windows. Now, in drawing in perspective or like any kind of perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, doesn't matter. You always have to match your reference lines every single time. I see a lot of people that draw with perspective. Even for me, when I was learning art like a couple of years ago, when I was just starting, and when I was drawing with perspective like that, I would often mess up my reference lines, and it would just look a bit asymmetrical. So if you're drawing something for the first time or something like that, make sure you always have those reference lines that are aligned with your vanishing point and your horizon line, because this will make the building look so much better, and also your drawing. So make sure you always check this before you get even into like drawing and stuff. Like don't be sad if you mess it up. Always happens. We all make mistakes. We can always do better, and we will improve. Don't worry. But yeah, if you're drawing something like this and you, for example, forget that you have to connect them, don't worry. Just redo it. You can rub it off. You'll be fine. I'm going to actually my art classes tomorrow, so we'll see if I can try to make something there. Something similar, maybe. For example, a couple days ago I had a bit of a street view that was based around this. So this was like a nice refreshment, so to say, with my art skills and stuff. So yeah. This is just going to be a bit of a quick tutorial on how to draw with perspective. Now we have everything like those windows and stuff. I'm going to make them look a lot better in the final drawing, don't worry. Now, if you draw the roof, should you focus on your reference point, I mean the vanishing point? Now, yes, you should, but if you, for example, draw a tilted roof like this, don't worry about this, because if you would follow this vanishing point right like this, this can look good if you're, for example, aiming for a very tilted roof like this. But if you're going for something like this right there, like a bit of a tilted roof still, but a bit like a bit higher, then don't worry about the vanishing point. You're going to do just fine. But if you're drawing something like this and you don't focus on your vanishing point, make sure before you draw the other side to connect those two ends with the vanishing point, like so. And now you can draw the other side from the other end of the building. And now would you look at that, we have a simple roof. Okay, so let's just finish this right here, and then a little bit of a window right there. So now you have everything set up with the building and stuff. Let's just finish this other one, and then we'll go into the 2-point perspective. Okay, so we've done a little bit of a quick jump with this drawing, and I would say that the 1-point perspective is done. So now you can draw with 1-point perspective. And since we've finished that up, let's go onto the 2-point perspective. Okay, so 2-point perspective. Now, of course, we're gonna start off with a horizon line, like this, right there. Okay, this is a bit of a tilted one, so I'm just going to... Oh, there we go. This looks somewhat better. Now, with 2-point perspective, as I said earlier, we have 2 vanishing points. Those 2 are going to be typically on 2 ends of your horizon line, on the 2 ends of your picture or whatever you're trying to do. And 2-point perspective is very good for using, for example, a one snapshot of a building or something like that. You can use perspective for really anything because it's a very good tool to like practice your draws. But I usually use 2-point perspective when drawing, for example, architecture stuff and cars and stuff like that. So we're just going to try and maybe do a little building with it. So now, if you want to make a building, for example, that's a very cubic shape, like a modern architecture style, you always want to start with the edge, because the edge is the easiest thing to try and draw. And then you connect those points to both your vanishing points. Like this, with your reference line, the first one. It's a bit of asymmetrical, so just my lines are pretty bad today. Oh, like this? Yeah, this looks good. Then your second one, which is going to go into this point right there, and then these points are going to also to connect to this one. So we're just going to connect this one and also this one, like this. And if you want to maybe, for example, edit this to look like a cube or anything like that, you can draw the edges like this, but make sure then they don't like exit the edge of your reference lines, as I call them, because your reference lines are basically like non-visible if you're trying to look at the picture. So for example, if you have this, make sure you like end your edges exactly where your reference lines are. Okay, so we have a bit of a simple shape right there, and we're going to also make another one. So just let's draw two edges right there. Okay, and now we have a third edge right there, but you can extend it a bit because this is going to go down a bit. Now, the easiest way to connect those, because we don't really know where to put that point because we can't really tell the reference lines, but you can also go from the vanishing point to your ends, and now you continue that line, and there we go, we have a point which all those meet. So we can just connect this one with the other line. And now if we just maybe bolt this one up, I don't really know how to say it. Oh, like this. Would you look at that? We have a little bit of a shape right there. Now, we have a, this is like basically the point of drawing two-point perspective. We have two vanishing points, like a couple of reference lines that go to both of them, and this is going to be with every single drawing. If you have, for example, like this something like, maybe just like, let me draw this a bit here so you can see it better. You have this edge, and you connect every single reference line to the vanishing point, like this, and like this, like this, right there. So now we have another cube that we just added, and we can like maybe interchange it to this building that we're drawing. So if you want to cover this up, you would go from this point right there to this vanishing point. So we're just going to connect both ends like so. Oh, there we go. And now we have a little bit of an abstract architecture design. So would you look at this? And there we go. This is a bit of a quick jump from what we done earlier with the one-point perspective, but generally those types are going to be pretty similar because you just add more vanishing points. But when we get to the 4-point perspective, this is going to be a bit harder, but don't worry, we've got through that. Okay, and now since we have it done right there, let's try to make it look a little bit better, like bring it to life. So maybe add a little path that's going through like this. There we go, we have a simple path. Maybe add some like grass and stuff so that your building can look a bit, better. Like this, we also can extend it a bit here. Like this. And let's just maybe sit back and continue this drawing. So enjoy the time lapse. I'm going to pause a bit right here. If you, so for example, sometimes you have a thing where you draw a couple of lines, maybe for example like this, right? But those lines are, if you're going to have something that is very repeated and, for example, interferes with each other, do not worry if you, for example, mess up with the reference lines. Of course, if you're, for example, drawing something very professional and everything needs to be like checked out and measured and everything, then you of course need to follow the reference lines to try to make it look as good as possible. But if you just draw casually, or for example, I don't know, in your class or something like that, then do not worry about the reference lines with your, let's just say, doodles and stuff like that, because if you for example focus only on this, and then your drawing is going to look of course very like symmetrical and stuff, but don't ever forget that you also have to detail it later. So make sure your drawing doesn't, for example, end up like this, because you have a lot of reference lines and just interferes with each other. So make sure your lines are good, but don't worry if you, for example, mess up them. Okay, so I finished maybe detailing this building a little bit, and now you will have some questions. Like, for example, Jan, why didn't you like make reference lines to these windows and these like wood planks and stuff? Well, this is because if you have a cube that's small enough, or really anything, any shape that you have reference lines already, you can follow them inside. You don't have to, for example, draw every reference line to every single shape you make, because that would make it a lot harder to draw and a lot longer, and you don't want that. Like this, and also, for example, right here. I don't have to follow like reference lines, because like, yeah, this would make the drawing look more accurate, but since I have those little lines right there, I do not have to, for example, make sure that my drawing looks like perfect or anything like that. So if you have something that you can really reference well, then you can just skip the reference lines, I would say, and just draw like this. So now, since we have everything set up with the 2-point perspective, let's now get into the 3-point. Okay, so 3-point perspective. Now, 3-point perspective is a little bit different than the two other types that we were covering, and I will show you why. Of course, you need to always start with your horizon line, right there. And then, the first two vanishing points that you're going to put on your horizon line are going to be placed at the two ends of your horizon line. I'm not saying that this is going to be always, because you have sometimes instances where you, for example, have the vanishing points a little bit closer, a little bit farther from each other, but generally this is the rule. You put them like at both ends. And now, where's the third vanishing point located? And this may surprise you, but you actually put it under or over the horizon line. And this is because your lines that you let's draw, for example, a cube like this. You can start by simply just drawing a straight plane shape. There we go. This looks good. Oh, like this. And now, when you have this, like this drawn, then your lines, your vertical lines, not the horizontal ones, are going to go to your third vanishing point. Like this. Now, yes, I know, this may look like a pyramid, for example, but we can change that. If we draw a little point like this, right there, then we can just connect both those points, our vanishing point and our point that we just drew on our little cube, together, like this. And now we have a lot of reference lines, I know, but look at this. Our cube is perfectly aligned as if we're, for example, flying or something like that. like this. Look at this. 3-point perspective, as I said earlier, is very good, for example, if you're drawing a city view from the ground level or from the sky level. Now this would be from the sky level because the building is warping at the bottom. And if, for example, building would warp at the top, let's just add the vanishing point right there for a minute, then it will look a lot different. Look at this. Let's just draw a plane shape again. Oh, right there. And now your vertical lines will go up this time. Like this. I know this doesn't look perfect, but don't worry, we're going to fix that. And now we can just put a point right there and connect our points to our vanishing points that we drew earlier on the horizon line. And bam. Now this is a view of our like shape or a building and stuff like that, whatever you're trying to draw from the ground level, okay? So this is what you would use if you're drawing something, for example, I don't know, from like a view of the street or anything like that. And this is what would you use if you're, for example, drawing something that you recorded, I don't know, in an airplane, in a drone, or anything like that. So that's basically the rules of drawing 3-point perspective and just getting used to having 3 vanishing points that are so much different from the 1 point and 2 point. So now let's just put this into practice and draw a little bit of a sky city view. Okay, so we have cleared up everything, and now we are going to make a couple of buildings that are going to align like this. Okay, and we're going to make a little bit of an apartment complex. Okay, so we're going to divide this so that it doesn't end up like a gigantic brick on the street. Like this. Okay, that looks good. And now let's connect our vertical lines to the other vanishing point at the bottom. Okay, so we have those reference lines lined up, and don't worry, I know it looks a bit weird when you have like every single thing like this and it looks like an upside down pyramid, but don't worry. We choose a point, as we did last time, and we connect this point with our vanishing point. That goes a little bit higher. Let me just fix that real quick. Oh, there we go. And now we have like this lined up, and from the other point we'll do the same thing. I'm just going to extend the reference line so that it lines right there. And there we go. We have a simple shape that we can use to make a city street view, for example. And now let's just, for example, finish that off with a nice little walkway or something like that. Oh, there we go. So now we have everything aligned like this. And there we go. We have a simple pathway and we have a simple like building. So now let's just maybe add some details and stuff. Don't worry, you don't have to like follow me right now because this is going to be a quick little time lapse. But maybe feel free to, for example, draw in your like reference drawings yourself. Yeah, I'm sorry that, for example, I think I will cut the time lapse a bit because for some reason my drawing tablet disconnected. But let's just ignore that for a second and finish that up. Okay, there we go. We have everything finished up, and as you can see, I drew a little bit of a, you can say, park where you have some grass, some trees, and some people. Now this is done for the 3-point perspective, and now let's go on to the 4-point. Okay, so this is the 4-point perspective. Now, this is where things get a little bit difficult because you always start off with your horizon line like this, no problem. But then you need to also have a second one that goes vertically. Like this. So from now on, from the 4-point perspective, we're going to have two different horizon lines. Now this point right there is where your eye level would be. So this is like the position that you're going to put your eyes in, and this is what you will be directly looking at. And now with 4-point perspective, we have 4 vanishing points, like this. So now we have 4 vanishing points, but how do these connect? Like this. Now I know this looks pretty bad, but don't worry. We're just going to finish this off like this. And now look at that. Every single of our reference line from point now on won't be a line. Because from the 4-point perspective and every type after the 4-point, our reference lines are going to be either very curved like this or some other shape. And they are going to straight out a bit when going to back to the horizon line. So like this. And then we just draw the same thing for the other side. It's a bit too big. Oh, right, like this. This looks good. Let's just put the most biggest one at the last so we can have a little bit of a reference to where and how to stop. This kind of looks like a pumpkin, not gonna lie. Okay, so we have every single point like this, draw, and then you're going to ask me how does this like connect? Well, from those vanishing points and those vanishing points, you can also draw reference lines to show you how, for example, you're going to draw your building view or something like that. So like this. And now I know this isn't really good on my part, I'm sorry for that, but make sure your reference lines interchange on this horizon line, on the vertical one. Now, like I said, I know on my drawing this doesn't look very good and you can really see it because, for example, this one is connected right there. But let's just maybe fix that a little bit. So we can draw this one, and to make it easier, you can draw from this point right there to your vanishing point. And now look, those points connect and that looks good. So now let's just try to maybe draw a shape in there. So follow your reference lines, the curved ones like this. Oh, and this one like this. This is straight out, so we're just going to do a simple straight shape. And now, if you want to draw the other side like this, I know I said that you can draw this straight reference lines, but if you, for example, want to keep this like on the 4-point perspective, then you also need to have reference lines that go right like this, horizontally, okay? So for example, if we have this building right there, then it will look something a little bit like this. Now I know it looks pretty strange, but sometimes people use this to, for example, draw cities and stuff like that. That can also be used to, for example, draw your room with, for example, like a 360 view of your room and stuff like that. And now, personally, I don't really use 4-point perspective that often because it is pretty hard to follow every single rule from 4-point perspective after. So I mainly stop at 3-point perspective, but if you, for example, want to still learn, then feel free to like extend your abilities further. So let's just do a couple of shapes so that you can get the general idea of how will this work. So we're just going to have a little bit of a square right there, and we're going to connect those points with the vanishing points, all like this. Okay, so we now have 3 little shapes. Let's just make a pathway like always. Okay, like this. So now we have a little bit of a city view and like an apartment complex view with 4-point perspective. Now I know this may be a little bit hard to read because I drew the reference lines a bit dark, but don't worry, this will like change if, for example, we'll get the 4-point perspective at the end of the video. So just don't worry, you can always like, for example, erase it so that it looks a bit better. And yeah, this is generally the main idea in drawing the 4-point perspective. And let's just do, as we do always, like detail a bit. So enjoy the time lapse. Okay, so we have a little bit of a different situation going on. We have some green stuff and we have some fences and windows and stuff. And I'm not going to, for example, draw that much because I am preparing for my final drawing that we're going to see just in a moment. But now, for now, let's get to the final type of perspective that we're going to cover in this video, which is the 5-point perspective. 5-point perspective, there we go. And now, the general idea is pretty similar to the 4-point. You have your horizontal line, horizon line like this. Then you have your vertical horizon line. And you put the first 4 vanishing points at the bottom, the top, the left, and the right. So now you might be thinking that this looks just as the 4-point perspective, but you need to put the final vanishing point somewhere in this grid. And this would be right here. So you have 5 vanishing points like this. And the idea, like I said, is pretty similar. You have those reference lines like this that go up and just curve with the horizon. You have those reference lines that are pretty straight like this, but you then also have those lines like this, and you also put them at the top. So I would say for this time, this is the most complicated type of perspective because you have to remember so many things. And let's just maybe therefore make a little bit of a cube that we can use here so that we can understand it a little bit better. So let's just do that. First of all, we're going to put a bit of a darker line so that we can see where our cube is starting. Then from that point, this vanishing point, we're going to connect our cube like this. Like that. Hell yeah. But also you could do the same thing that as I told earlier, and you can curve those. So let's just try this and see how it looks. This looks like kind of an open eye, not gonna lie. Okay, then we have this curved line right there. Okay, so with this shape done, we now have to connect it to our middle vanishing point, the 5th one, like this. And this is the general idea of drawing 5-point perspective. Let's just finish that so it doesn't look like an infinite wall. Okay, so we have this finished, and this is the pretty much all of the things you have to remember. You draw your reference lines curved around the vertical and the horizontal horizon line like this. You can draw your straight reference lines like this, and like I said earlier, make sure those connect with the horizon line, the vertical one. And you also have those reference lines that connect to the middle vanishing point. So now, let's just copy this one and paste it right there. Let's make it a bit bigger so we can understand this section a bit better. So let's just make this a little bit of a big cube. Oh, this is perfect. We can use this and we can like try to cover this up like that. Okay, so we have this drawn like a little bit of a square. Then we connect both ends of that square to our middle vanishing point right there. There we go. And then we just finish it off by scraping a little bit right there. Perfect. So we have two little cubes, and this is basically the general idea of drawing 5-point perspective. Now, of course, let's just detail this a little bit, like we always do. Okay, so this is like a little bit of a pathway right there. Now, I am doing something that, like when I said in the 2-point perspective, you don't always have to draw reference lines to everything. Look at this. I am drawing a little bit of a fence right there, and this looks good because I have this one, this reference line like there, that I can just base my fence upon, and then I can also base my like curved, for example, our fence from those lines. Okay, so like I said, I don't have to, for example, like draw reference lines from everything and nothing like that. So yeah, this is like the main idea of doing this. Okay, so we have everything done, and now like I said earlier and like I was just talking about over and over again, let's do our final drawing, and this time we're going to put a little bit of a more effort into this, okay? So let's just... Alright, so for this drawing I'm going to use 2-point perspective because honestly, in my opinion, this is the most universal one. It's very easy to understand and you will find this type the most, probably. So we have 2 vanishing points and our horizon line right there. And we're going to try to recreate our building that we drawn a couple of minutes ago. And we're just going to make it look a lot better, you know? So we're styling off with a vertical line. We connect our vanishing points to our line, like this, with our reference lines. Jesus, I need to practice drawing perfectly straight. I sometimes have a little bit of an issue when drawing straight, as you can see. And now we just finish it off by forming a very big shape, like this. Okay, let's just fix that a little bit so it looks a bit better. Okay, so we have this set up, and we have a little bit of a cube going right here. And now let's do the ground floor now. Here and here, like this. Now a little bit tip. If you want to make your drawing look better, and if you're, for example, drawing a little bit of an intruded cube in a shape, you can do a little bit something like this. Because this will look as if the like the shape of your first floor is going outside, so that it looks perfectly good. Okay, so let's just connect our vanishing points, I mean the reference lines, like this, so that we have a good idea of where this is going. Then we just connect this one right there. Perfect. And then from that point here. Alright, so we have the general shape of our building that we are going to use. That looks very good. And now we just have to draw a little bit of detail, and then I'm going to make it look a lot better with my pen brush. So let's just draw a bit of a pathway right there. Like I said, make sure this point connects to our vertical line. I know this is in the horizon line, but this will look a lot better if we connect it to our line right there. So, okay, this looks good. We have a little bit of a pathway going on right there. Then we can just, for example, make a little bit of a pattern so that it doesn't look that boring. Okay, and now let's just add some, for example, grass right there. If you guys want to, I could, for example, maybe do a tutorial on how to draw plants and stuff. I am not really good at drawing those, but I could definitely try to help you out. Okay, so we have a little bit of grass that is going right there, and then maybe just let's put a tree so that this doesn't look so boring. Okay, so we have a simple tree. Let's just erase a bit so that it doesn't look that it just interferes with our building right there. Okay, a simple tree. Let's make a bush right there. Alright, so this looks good. We can also do what sometimes we see at like those very cool modern pathways, like those cylindrical lights, I would say. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of an environment going on, let's just focus on the building itself. So, we're going to put a door right there. I know this looks a bit tall, but that's just how I would think the scale looks right there. Okay. We have a little bit of a door going on. Then we just like make it look as if it was built pretty recently. Oh yeah, hell yeah. And now let's put a window right there. Like this. And like this. I think you noticed that in the beginning or during the video, but notice that I'm drawing lines, reference lines from the vanishing point, not from our line. And this is because I just personally feel like drawing reference lines from the vanishing point and not from our like lines that we connect is honestly easier because you know where you're going to end up and it's much easier to follow from the start. So I would personally, I would suggest that drawing reference lines from this point is easier, but if you find it to do it easier like this, then just do what you want. We're just going to put a little bit of like planks right there, so it looks pretty nice. It's a bit of a cozy vibe right there. Okay, we have this setup, and then we draw another window right there. Alright, like this. That looks good. We can just make it look like an actual window. Okay, and this is a building that I'm going to maybe try to reference as like a modern style or something like that. I'm going to draw a very big window. One that is like honestly ending up in the entire floor. Okay, so we have this setup and we have like a little bit of a nice environment like right there. Let's just make an interior like this. Okay, next the second window, and this time I'm going to make it a little bit shorter so that our building doesn't look that predictable. Sorry for the loud noises. Okay, we have this set. Right. Okay, so this is our window, and this is, like I said, a little bit of a shorter window than this one. And now we can also make a terrace at the roof. On the roof, I mean, sorry. My English is not very good, I'm not a native speaker. Okay. Like that, and like that. Okay, so that looks nice. We have a little bit of a terrace going on. Okay, so our building is pretty much our sketch, I mean, is pretty much finished. So now I am going to get my pen brush right there, and I'm just going to trace it over so that it looks a lot better. So enjoy the time lapse. Now a quick tip for drawing straight lines: make sure you go down. It's much easier to draw straight lines going down than going up, okay? Okay, so I think we can confidently say that our little drawing and little sketch is basically done. We have everything like outlined. I did a little bit of a basic shading, as you can see. So yeah, this is probably finished, I would say. Okay, so that is basically it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you learned something new. Also, if you have any ideas, then feel free to leave in the comments for maybe future tutorials. I have some stuff lined up, but I am confident that you guys have something interesting, and then I am going to include it in the next video. So yeah, this is basically the end. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.